Hey guys, great to see you again. Glad to be back with you for the internet's only weekly live stream, really targeting the
hmm
SAAB community. I'm Lee Kelso.
I'm Mark Romisher, and this week we'd like to talk about a project that SAAB did between a little bit of Sweden, a little bit of Japan, and a little bit of North America, all in between. And we're bringing to you this week the SAAB 92X Aero. We're going to talk about the platform, where it came from, and some of the pitfalls that for those who want to go ahead and buy a SAAB 92X, what to look out for. And we've got a couple guests here who are going to tell us more about the experience of ownership, as well as some of the value that we're coming to see in the market. So we're looking very exciting to have these guests here with us today.
You bet. So this, I was jokingly, and I put in the post here that this car is the love child of what happens when GM forced SAAB and Subaru to get together. And you know, you
Absolutely.
you got to think that wasn't all that happy a marriage, right? But hey, we're here live with you for a while, and if you've got questions, comments throughout the program, just use the chat. We'd love to have you participate and be part of the conversation. So don't be shy
hmm
about that. Well, let's
Absolutely.
welcome to the program Kyle Hudson, who is the
hmm
owner of the Subi. See, there I go. This particular SAABARU, we'll call it, that I just showed you a second ago. Kyle, welcome to the program.
He's so speechless. It's all good, but while Kyle's go ahead and getting synchronized with us, the Subaru I would like to mention that we are featuring here in the show is actually owned by Kyle, and that happens to be a linear model, and it's apparently has served him very well. It actually has a the 2.5 liter engine, and man, it's done very well as far as what I can tell. We talked a little bit before the show about it, and it's been very nice as far as reliability. That's what I'm hearing.
Let's see if Kyle can hear us. Kyle, you with us again, Chief?
I don't
So
know,
what?
maybe he has a glitch.
So what I know about Kyle is he is a Subaru dealership employee, right, Mark?
Yeah, he's actually a service writer for a Subaru dealership in the Maryland area, and he helps people repair their Subarus. But he's talked to us about that he has many repeat customers that are also owners of a Saab 92X. It's kind of nice.
Oh,
Hey
hey,
there.
we're
Hey,
back.
Kyle.
Yeah,
Nice to see you back.
yeah. I don't know
Look,
what happened. I'm sorry. It just completely crashed on it.
stuff happens. No worries, no worries. So your 92X, this is a Subaru and Saab clothing, but you tell me when you get in it, you can just feel that it's not really a Subaru, but it's also really not quite a Saab.
Absolutely, it's definitely one of those things where on the outside you can kind of see the resemblance of like, okay, there's that kind of hatchbacky look to it. The badging's there, the kind of stylings, but you open the door and you can instantly tell, yes, that's different. That's definitely not Saab, even though it's got the badge on there. If you get in a comparable Impreza of the year, you will see it's got the same radio, shifter, steering wheel, cluster, you name it. It's all Subaru.
hmm
And
And
how
I was
does it?
actually, I'll go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Mark. Yeah, go right ahead.
I was actually reading a little bit about how Subaru and Saab kind of crossed over. One of the reasons they had a lot of similar parts between the Impreza and this particular model was they were racing to get to market. And one thing that I learned is that, it would have taken Saab or GM 5 years to create a comparable vehicle if they started building this from scratch. So in an effort to get to market quickly, they used essentially what GM owned 20% of Subaru at the time, and they had large ownership in Saab at the time. So they said, hey, you guys, get together. Let's make a car that's going to compete in this small, compact sport car market.
Yeah, and I was always thinking, gosh, imagine, I wonder how those Saab engineers felt about that. You want us to do what exactly? And so they did make a lot of changes, though, and I understand part of that is suspension and part of it was sound deadening. So do you know anything
hmm
about that, Kyle?
Suspension is relatively the same, especially on the linear models. It's still 100%, Impreza RS of that generation. Aero models got the WRX suspension. Well, no, I'm sorry, STI suspension. But some people will tell you it has an STI rack. That's supposedly a myth. Apparently, it was something done on like Motor Trend or one of the bigger magazines, Road and Track, something like that. That being said, you could still buy everything as if it were new from a Subaru dealership, as long as you have the appropriate part number.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I wanted to ask you, Kyle, what about driving this car? I mean, how does it feel compared to your other Saabs? Because I know you own a few others, so how does this compare with your other Saabs there as far as drivability?
It's definitely a different driving dynamic. You can tell it's all-wheel drive. Non-turbo models like mine, well, you definitely have a power difference. This supposedly has, when it was new, 175 horsepower. That was comparable to most of our base model turbo Saabs, from the 900 to linear 9.5s. But you can definitely tell where the power is and where the power isn't. Aero models, you definitely get some power. They're like 268 to 280, depending who you talk to. Definitely a interesting driving dynamic for sure, but you definitely know that it's not a Saab. It doesn't ride like a 9.3 or a 9.5 or even a 900. The suspension feels different. The overall ride quality is different, but you can tell when you do drive it that all-wheel drive works, and it works great.
Awesome.
So what we're looking at here is a turbo model, and I'm told that the turbo on these things was really small, but you can feel it, so it makes a difference. And we're talking more like about 220, I think I heard 220 horsepower on this particular turbo version.
So the Aero models, yes, they did get around that. Some will tell you they get around like 250, 260. They, pending the year, actually had TD04 turbos like what our Aeros do, or actual Aeros anyway. They definitely drive well. They're a cool vehicle to drive, especially if you've driven a comparable Impreza WRX of that generation. The Saab feels better than the WRX itself. You can tell that even though cosmetically you can tell it's Subaru on the inside, but Saab on the outside, you can tell that it just drove that little bit better than the comparable Subaru of that year.
That's awesome. So what about this Saab drew you to it when you were first looking in the market? Because I know there had to be a reason behind when you were looking for a car. I think you and your significant other had said, hey, we need a car that's practical and so forth, and this kind of checked all those boxes?
It was one of those things where more so I've owned quite a few, from 900s to 9.5s, 9.3s, new gens, Viggens. It was one of those, we have found the right car at the right time. There's one in the market. We can get it for a price that we think is fair. And having that kind of, all right, we can use this as the car to drive on a daily basis, and kind of backburner all the real ones that when they have their time, they need to be off the road a bit and get the attention they need. And the car always came in every time, ice cold air, started, just basic bare bones, reliable transportation when you want it.
Japanese reliability, but a little bit of Swedish flair. Yeah,
absolutely.
So anything I can do to hop up a Subi, I can do on this car. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. You could go to any Subaru tuner, from Drunkman Tuning to Cobb. We have a place down where we're at, Andrew Tech. They do their own stuff. IAG. Every big name Subaru tuner can touch this car aero-wise and do exactly what you would do to a WRX or an STI.
Awesome. And essentially, all those mods, the market for aftermarket for these cars is just astounding from what I made to understand. I mean, there's all kinds of Saabs, just from what you described, just in your local area, there's a lot of different options there. So obviously anyone who happens to go for owning one of these, they'll have many upgrade options in that area. Awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
You're frozen. We can still hear you though. Go ahead, Kyle.
Oh, okay. Are we Can we see me now? Everybody good?
We can see you.
We can see you. That's for sure.
Cool. All right, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I could Google, Subaru WRX air intake, and you'll find 20 different sites at a minimum that will be like, yeah, here you can bet on. Tuning is definitely different compared to dealing with Trionic or LH Jetronic, EIS fuel injection. Pretty much anything modification wise in terms of electrical or horsepower or anything like that, you have to retune the car every single time. It's definitely not something that I can go on my 900, put an intake on it, and it will run fine. No, you do that to a Subaru, the whole car needs to be modified for it.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's excessive.
I'm going to welcome to the program right now Saab Doctor from YouTube, Joe Reichard. Joe, good to have you here.
How's it going, Joe?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yep. I was going to say, it's going great thus far. I was going to say, a little warm in the shop tonight. I wish I had that fan that Mark has above him, but I'll survive.
That's great. Kyle, you're going to love this when you watch the playback. Your screenshot is frozen in a pose that it's going to make you smile, my friend.
That is wonderful.
Wonderful. Don't worry. I sent him a screenshot of him being frozen. It's Kyle. It's awesome.
God, you did. I bet it's wonderful.
You should make this into your profile picture.
Yeah. You might want to try to read Kyle and get back to this full motion. So, hey, I brought Joe along because Joe is not only a fellow YouTuber who covers a lot of Saab topics and enjoyed a lot of your videos, Joe, but also your day job, so to speak, is with Auto Trader, right?
That's correct. Yep. I've been in the auto industry for 17 years now. So between working at dealerships and my background with Auto Trader and whatnot. It's something that I don't tend to talk about a lot because I try and keep my hobby and my job separate. But, it's given me a different perspective on values and whatnot. So, being able to look at market trends, which is part of what I do to, work with my customers day in and day out. So something I keep track of.
That's what I was kind of hoping that we could call on you for today. So here is Auto Trader. I went out and did a search for some 92Xs, and there were none in my immediate area. So I had to expand the search to nationwide. And then when you do, the inventory is still kind of small, but these cars I think they look like a pretty decent value, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was it I said when you were scrolling through the first time in the portion before you got to that Aero for under $7,000, and I said, hey, maybe I should buy that as my next project on the channel. It was this one for $6,000. I was like, it's a lot of car for the money. And, if we were looking at a comparable Subaru, a WRX of, an 05 WRX would be more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're paying the Subaru tax for it. So, I will say this. The values on 92Xs have went up over years. You used to be able to get them for less just because Subaru folks didn't know what they were exactly. And that's changed in the past 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So.
Because Kyle, I think you stole yours, didn't you?
We definitely got a great deal from a very great seller. Kamal Tunser, who owned it, he was awesome to work with. We met at 1,500, which is what he was advertising. It definitely needed some work. I had to put 2 axles in it, a wheel bearing, tires, but that's expected. Any car that you buy used, I always expect to put at least 1,500 into it, not counting our state inspection stuff. Hopefully you can try and lump it into that, but obviously not every car works that way. Definitely felt like we got a good price. We definitely have gotten our money out. There's a cat here. We definitely got our money out of it for sure. It was great.
So what do I need to look out for on these cars? What's the gotchas that are going to come along with it?
Definitely, head gaskets, water pump, timing belt. Those are the big factors mechanically. Structurally speaking, you want to look out for strut tower, which you do have to pull the rear seat for this. A lot of people don't know that, which, in the Subaru world, it's even shocking that some major Subaru people don't know that. You pull the rear seat, and if you got size holes in there, decision if you want to fix it or move it on. Luckily, at least in our spot, we haven't had that bad, at least on our car. I can't speak for others. Some cars have been up, near Joe's Way that would look great, and then there's cars down in Florida that look like Swiss cheese. So it depends on where it came from.
Well, I was going to say cars out here, most Subarus are Swiss cheese by now, but
yeah, I believe it. I 100% believe it.
So Saunders actually has a couple of questions in the chat. He was wondering, is the four-wheel drive system on the Subaru, is it maintenance intensive? You'd know that. You're a Subaru service writer.
Definitely. Timing belts usually do every 8 years, 100K. Head gaskets are kind of, when they pop up, great. Let's figure out what we want to do with that. Pretty much anything else you do, all-wheel drive services every 30,000, brake fluid flushes, just kind of general maintenance like every other manufacturer would. These cars, they will leak valve covers, cam carrier seals, if not caught in an attentive time. There are some actual Subarus I've seen that. We do end up doing some pretty decent reseals on, but those are the biggest factors really that you got to keep an eye on. That's any car, that could be even on our Saabs, that could be on a Chevrolet, Maserati, general maintenance things.
Hey Joe, thanks for reminding me to bring the chat up. I totally was engaged in other things and spaced it. There's a lot of guys talking here, so let's share some of those comments.
I was going to say it's absolutely all right. I just noticed it because I have my YouTube channel up, and a few people were asking questions in the chat there, so I was keeping an eye on it.
I'm glad you did. Thank you. So we want to address some of these. I love having people from Mexico dropping in.
That's cool.
Yeah, the 92X not available down there. That's very curious.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, it was a U.S. market only car. You can't even buy this car in Europe at the time when it was for sale. It was strictly for us Americans.
Huh. That's cool.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that's the SAAB celebs. They're talking about you, Joe. I think that's got to be you they're talking about.
Right?
I'm pretty sure that's definitely Kyle. That's not me.
I don't know about that, man. I just like sharing cars.
Jeff Shore knows I love him too. I'm gonna give that guy a hug next time I see him and feed his kid flaming hot Cheetos again. Just in case nobody caught the story at Carlisle.
Great. Oh, it's fun times.
So, so Saunders was asking, is this an interference engine? And I have not a clue, so we're going to look to you guys for that one. Kyle, what is it?
Absolutely. It's timing belt driven. The moment that belt snaps its valves and 1600 into something big real quick. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then how is working on...
I know my cousin's a big Subaru guy, and he said that the easiest way to do the Subaru head gaskets is just to replace the entire center section of the head. You just replace the entire center section because, if the head gaskets are gone, there's probably other issues. So
definitely. You can definitely pull ahead and go from head gasket to short block real in some cars, especially some of the turbo ones.
Hey, here's Matt Grubbs with the comment that you made earlier, Kyle. 9,292 of the 92s were made.
That is kind of the big rumor. I can't confirm or deny it. I think it's adorable, honestly.
And you said that you're seeing some similarities in the people who are coming to you with a crossover between Saab and Subaru in your dealership.
Absolutely. There have been clients that, from when I was just a greenhorn starting this over a year ago, where I was trying to, just kind of put a name for myself out there. They would come in working on their car. We do basic maintenance, and we get on to the subject of what we've owned. I'll be like, oh, yeah, well, right now I got the the Subaru. And they were like, oh, yeah, well, we've had, 900, 9,000. The one guy who had a 99 turbo, which we were out over. And it's turned to quite the business relationship. And because of that, I've been able to to make more connections. And some people I'd say, hey, you look, I'm giving this stuff away. Do you want to take a look at it? And lo and behold, oh, cool. I just got a set of wheels from my client who I just fixed their car. It's awesome.
That is cool. That's great. So again, Saunders asking, what about the four-wheel drive system? What's it like to maintain? Is it a Haldex system?
No, it's 100% in-house Subaru. It basically, you just do this, everything else. It's rare to see like drive shaft issues or anything like that. Frankly, if you stick to those 30,000 intervals, change the gasket and fluids, they run forever. Well, basically just before a differential would blow up unless it was neglected or beat up on or anything. Sometimes you replace a U-joint or, rear drive shaft bushings, something like that. But even on newer Subarus and older than the 9.2, I seldom see that where I work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, so somebody was just asking there, do you have a YouTube channel, Kyle?
I do not. No, that's Joe's field. I'm just a guy who likes the cars.
Okay. So let's see, a kid in FRS, I don't know what that is, France, we're talking about, came up to me in my Viggen and said, hey, nice Subaru. So yeah, the brand contamination went both ways.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah,
good stuff.
I think we've all gotten the, hey, that's the SAABARU, right? Comment at least once. I guarantee everybody's had it once.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And were they mostly automatics, manuals? What was the mix? Anybody know?
I personally wouldn't have that information. I know I have seen more automatic Aeros, especially for sale. It's rare to see a manual one, even though everybody's like, oh yeah, I have the stick shift one. But in terms of actual breakdown, I couldn't tell you.
I will say,
So
if I were to put a bet on it, I would bet there are more automatic linears than anything else.
Absolutely.
Only because you have to, whenever you look at what the most common cars out there are, it's going to be those cars that fit the dealer's lease programs the best. That's normally what the manufacturer will stock them with. So there will probably be more of those than anything.
What about price on this? Where do you see it going, Joe? Do you have any feel for that?
Honestly, right now with the market, up is the only way. With more and more people figuring out that the 9.2X is a Subaru, you're going to get more Subaru people involved there, and that's just going to drive the price up. The more times that people, find their way into the SAAB market, the higher the price they're going to get, because there aren't a lot of cars, and there's more. Once there's more demand than cars, you're going to get that price driven up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say so, yeah, definitely.
And especially with the shortages going on now, shoot, we're lucky to find used vehicles at least right now because of everything that's going crazy, especially with all the electronic shortages around the world.
Yep, I can say this: if you look at the average sale price of cars on dealers' lots in the last year, they've went up approximately $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Absolutely, it's definitely the case here at my shop for sure.
And that brings up a good point. Oh, I was going to say, Kyle, since you're a service writer and you're there in the on the ground, you're seeing people fix their cars now more often than actually buying them. So this is going to drive up the used car market. I mean, would you say that's a fair assessment?
For sure. It definitely has had more salespeople going, hey, is John Doe thinking of trading in his 2010 Tribeca? We could give him like $2,000 more than what it was worth. It definitely can make or break some decisions. A lot of people are more focused on getting them fixed now, which as a writer, I'm like, great, sign me up. Let's do that. But there are people who are like patiently waiting for, that new Subaru or whatever they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So it would go either even in this kind of funky market that we're all in right now.
Hey, and Matt is asking here about colors. I don't know the answer to this. Do you know all the colors that were available in these SAABARUs, the 92s?
I couldn't name them by true name, but they had red, they had kind of like a parchment silver. They called it like desert silver, something like that. The midnight.
Oh, we just lost Kyle mid-sentence. That's kind of a drag.
So many colors, he had to drop off.
That's right.
But going along with what he was saying, you know, a silver, a red, a black. I think I have seen blue as well. So some of the colors, some of the there he's back again, talking about colors.
I think we got like a storm rolling through, so hopefully this won't be the entire thing. I'm not sure where it left off there.
We're just talking about the colors of the 92s, man.
Gotcha. Okay, so they had like 2 different silvers, apparently. Then there's red and a similar color to like midnight blue or nocturne, and whatever you want to call it. Definitely not too vibrant, but other than like Viggens with their wild colors, we didn't really have any differences in terms of the kind of SAAB color palette, I would think.
Hey, just talking about price, I don't know if you guys saw this message here. I saw that 3,000-mile Viggen, but I didn't catch up on the auction and how it closed over at BAT, but $33,000.
Oh, I called it. Whatever 30. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
As long as I've actually joined, I'm going to say that doesn't surprise me. Just watching a few other auctions, I actually was trying to bid on the manual transmission Lynx Yellow convertible that was on Cars and Bids about 2 to 3 weeks ago. The one that sold for $17,000. It was at $11,000 with a minute left. I went to put in a $13,000 bid. Now on Cars and Bids, every time you bid, it resets the clock.
Right.
I think it does 5 minutes. I can't remember exactly. It's either a minute or 5 minutes. But regardless, so I went to put in a $13,000 bid. By the time I had my credit card information in, confirmed everything, I was already outbid. My bid didn't even go in.
Oh, it didn't matter. That sucks.
It didn't even matter. I tried, and then I didn't get it. And
that's great.
It's not the only links I've bid on. So, these more rare cars and these harder to find combinations are just getting more and more expensive. And sites like Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer are bringing them to other audiences that normally wouldn't have seen them. So, that 3,000-mile Viggen, for example, I don't know if it stayed in the community or not, but, somebody looking for an M3 or something like that may have seen it and said, hey, I can't afford an M3, but this Viggen looks good to me, because back in the day, they were competitive cars. Now, I'm not saying that they're truly similar performance-wise. The M3 is a whole different level than the Viggen just because of the chassis and everything. Right. But, they were competitive, and the prices of M3s are out of this world right now.
They're astronomical, even for B1s. They're high.
It's making them a little bit more it's making them a little bit, making them go up a little bit, because can that comment go off the screen? Because all I can do is laugh at that.
I was going to say, the community is spoken, so I think you need to pull that credit card back.
I will not talk about anything that I have attempted to buy, bid on, or anything like that. I have a few extra cars that nobody knows about right now. So,
and yet. But guys, but guys, you got to think about it. We got to celebrate the fact that this Viggen just went for $33,000. Every time we see a win like this, it drives the whole market. SAAB owners everywhere rejoice. I mean, come on, guys. People are starting to recognize, and the enthusiasm is building. When you start seeing the prices of these cars go up, you're going to start seeing a wave of people saying, hey, where have these cars been? They're out, people are going to start noticing. And all of a sudden, all the SAABs that we have, they're going up in value. People get more interested. Hey, maybe people start making more parts for them. Maybe they start having more interest that drives the markets in other areas, that keeps our SAABs on the road, that makes parts more available and keeps the communities growing. That's what it's That's what it's leading to. It gets me excited.
Mark, I can't agree with you.
it's-
I can't agree with you more. Every time I see, people within the community saying, "Hey, that car is too expensive. Hey, it's too much money." I mean, here, I'm a Saab guy. I'm cheap at heart. That's how I ended up here. Let me be honest. We in 2007, my wife and I were looking at we were looking at BMWs, Mercedes, Volvos, and they were too expensive. And we ended up with a 9.3 convertible because it was affordable. Let me be honest, it was the best of the group, but it was affordable. And and I am going to butcher his name, so I will apologize ahead of time. But Safan, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Yeah, Safan, you got it.
His 94X just did $17,000 with 134,000 miles, and the guy who bought it is ecstatic. And let me just say something. I paid $17,500 for this with 69,000 miles on it 4 years ago. Wow. Or sorry, 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I am through the moon that they're holding their value. People are appreciating them, and people are keeping, they're changing hands, and people are seeing the value of it, because for all that I love Saabs, and I love them because you can get such a good value on them compared to other things and whatnot. They do cost money to maintain, and something like the 94X and the NG95 and even the Viggens. I mean, I could tell a world of stories on my own Viggen about how it was a money pit, but the car brings me so much joy. And the fact that people are starting to pay a little bit more for them, is showing us that, hey, the market is starting to understand the money that's been invested and the money it actually takes to keep them on the road. And people are understanding that there's only a finite number of these cars out there,
right?
And that's all we have to share from is that finite number of cars.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Bitcoin, right? Ever going to be any more than what there is now, right? So
it's only fewer every day, unfortunately.
It's going up, yeah. Well, guys, I think it's time for us to wrap it up on that very positive note. I really enjoyed having you around, Joe. Kyle, nice to meet you. Thanks for everybody who joined us with the comments.
It's awesome.
We hope we'll have all you guys back again another time.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate
this. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Yeah, that's good times.
So, Mark, I'm going to have to find out where I can get a hold of a 9.2 and take it for a test drive. Now they've kind of got me curious.
Well, I don't know if you ever see yourself out in Maryland. I know Kyle was talking about his, but I'm so happy that we're able to start seeing, ending on a positive note. It's the fact that we just saw that Viggen go for that price. It stirs me up, man. It makes me excited, and it makes me want to get in the garage and start wrenching on something.
Well, that's certainly what I need to be doing. So I think I may have to jump out there this weekend. Guys, I sure appreciate you joining us. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week for another edition of Saab Talk Live. Hope you're around with us next Thursday night. We'll see you, Mark.
Excellent. See you, Lee. Have a good week, everyone.
Good night, guys.